Hey guys, you're about to listen to Believe It or Not, and sometimes we say things that, aren't always the nicest.
Yeah, and sometimes we're not experts either because we just Google this stuff.
But you know what? That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
We're allowed to have opinions, and you're allowed to choose not to listen.
And you're allowed to leave angry comments on our Facebook page.
Please do.
Yeah, but if you do like it, rate us 5 stars on iTunes.
And if you don't like it, please rate us 5 stars on iTunes.
Because you're a good person.
Yeah.
I got hymns here. Get him while they're holy. Fresh from God's brain to your mouth.
He's God here in this radio station. Smite me! Almighty smiter!
The Bible is black and white.
I have such doubts.
Get out of here, devil!
I'm a God. I'm not the God. I don't think.
And you will know my name is the Lord!
We're on a mission from God.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Believe It or Not. Damien Doepping here.
I'm Trevor Poelman.
And we're back again for another...
We're back again.
Back again.
Yeah, sorry.
From outer space.
From outer space. Guess who's back in the house?
Back in the saddle again?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's us. Speaking of saddles.
Yeah?
That's a terrible transition. Speaking of saddles, I got a terrible transition for you.
Okay.
What's one way you use a saddle besides riding a horse? For sex, maybe?
No?
No? Okay.
Maybe. I don't know.
There's no such thing as a sex saddle?
Maybe. Probably.
Yeah, probably not.
Can someone look that up?
Yeah, we get a lot of things wrong here, so if you could...
send us an email about the sex saddle.
Yeah, exactly. No, today I want to talk about purity culture.
Okay.
Do you know what that is?
Is that about remaining pure, so with regards to sex?
Yeah, so...
I mean, when we're talking about saddles, I guess going bareback, like bareback horse riding, but also...
Bareback Mountain.
Yeah. Not using, stuff on your thing.
Brokeback Mountain.
Brokeback Mountain.
That's the porn version I was thinking.
I think they was bareback too.
Yeah.
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 I didn't see any condoms in that movie.
Me neither. It was the 60s. It was a different time.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're talking about sex, the sex, and
talk about sex, baby.
Let's talk about sex, baby. So yeah, I don't know. This is the first episode where there's not like a Wikipedia article that I could use as my kind of outline.
Yeah,
it's
this
not
was
really
a little more broad.
Yeah, a little more broad, a little more abstract. Just kind of talking about the culture of sex and how it's taught to young, impressionable minds within the world of the church.
This is something very relevant right now, especially in Ontario and the recent rollback of the sex ed curriculum.
Exactly.
Which is a travesty.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that as we move along. I'm sure people, in our area probably know about it, but I'm not sure if anyone else is aware.
There was a legislation passed in the 80s which kicked off a lot of this stuff that under Reagan that really pushed for abstinence-only education in schools, and that got a lot of support from the Christian right and really helped kind of launch this movement. But because people were fighting for the only way to have safe sex is not to have sex at all, which
is such a closed-minded and just ignoring.
Yeah,
everything.
The safest way to go boating is to not go boating.
I mean, that's why I don't go boating.
Yeah, that's true.
So
you're not going to drown if you're not boating.
Yeah, but at least I'm aware if I wanted to go boating, I would learn about boating. Before I went boating.
Yeah. So there's also so I think this is a lot of it is a reaction to sex ed curriculum, being afraid of what your kids are being taught.
Should we say something about what happened with the Ontario curriculum?
Might as well.
I mean, for people who aren't in Ontario, was it a couple of years ago that they changed the curriculum?
Yeah.
They finally updated the sexual education curriculum in Ontario.
Yeah.
Which hadn't been updated since 98.
Oh, was that the last time? Yeah.
That's when it's been rolled back to.
Yeah.
So 98 was the last time it was updated.
Yeah.
The new update, I believe, it dealt a lot with consent.
Yeah.
And using the proper terms for different body parts and things like that. So a lot of it was also more long term. So it was starting with young children, like kindergarten.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I know a lot of religious groups were really against that at the time.
Yeah.
Yet it still went through. But a lot of the stuff with early children, it was more about consent and about being able to say no.
Yeah, exactly.
Being able to talk about that kind of stuff, which is very important. But under the new conservative government this last couple months. They've rolled it back to the old curriculum.
Great.
Yep, which was the one that we both probably would have had.
Like it would have come out when I was in high school, which is insane.
And
I was in high school a very long time ago, people.
I remember very little from it because it was very uninformative for the most part.
Yeah.
I think it was maybe like 2 days.
Yeah, I think so. I remember like in elementary school we had a couple sex ed classes, and it was like a nurse came in and we could ask them questions.
Yes, and that was about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah. And
so think about that. Something that is a very important part of our culture and society being glossed over 2 brief days with a nurse.
Yeah. I think it's also, it's ridiculous. I think it's also a reaction to abortion and stuff like that.
Yep.
And I also, for this episode, we've got some complaints on Facebook, even though we have warnings every episode. Right. There are going to be some factual inaccuracies.
Of course.
But this episode in particular is going to be a lot of guessing and a lot of me thinking, I bet this is why.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of speculation from us. I feel like that's what a lot of what we do is. Yeah. That being said, I do think that we are someone, if you have something that you feel we've been incorrect with, and let us know.
Let us know, exactly.
We're open to hearing that.
Yeah.
We're willing to admit when we're wrong.
Yeah.
That being said, if you're just giving us some crackpot theory that's just as, exactly. factually obtuse, then I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah.
Anyway.
And I also think that it has a lot to do with just not being able to comprehend that your kid might grow into a sexual being.
And they will.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people in the church kind of, especially when it comes to if you have daughters, you just don't want to admit that your daughter will one day be in a position where they will be having sex. And instead of setting them up so that it's a good experience, they just try to make it not happen.
Yeah.
And I think that can be scary on its own.
The thing that's, I think I heard something recently where it was some of the children, I think it might have been in the States, but the quote was, the kids are okay for, why should the children be suffering because their parents are unable to deal with their own sexuality?
Yeah, exactly.
It was something along those lines. I can't remember what, I'll see if I can find it maybe later, but.
Put it in the show notes.
Again, it's... Yeah, repressed parents, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's also a book in the 90s that floated around my youth group called I Kissed Dating Goodbye by a guy named Joshua Harris. And he told the story about how he was in some bad relationships and decided he wasn't going to do that anymore. And then he met his wife and they courted and they didn't touch each other really until they were married. And then the first time they ever kissed was when they said, "You may now kiss the bride." And so that became a big part of purity culture too. Like nothing, you're not even supposed to kiss before.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's not everywhere, but that's a big thing in a lot of churches too.
I find that's an interest. So much about like relationships are about that kind of compatibility too. Like, I mean, as much as it is just like knowing whether or not you like the person or whether you can like live with someone.
Yeah.
Like, these things are huge things that you're just not going to experience, and then you're just kind of thrown in and like, oh, you're married now.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, what if you don't like kissing this person?
Yeah,
you might love them as a human being, but maybe you just like, no, it doesn't do it for you.
Yeah.
And there's so many factors like that. It just.
What if you find out that like this person has like the rogue thing, like, you know, Rogue from X-Men, like when she kisses people, she drains her energy, and you won't even know till you get married to them that they can just drain your energy and kill you by kissing you.
Wow, that's true.
That's scary. That's
because you never touch them either, right?
You never touch them either, and all of a sudden you're kissing Rogue from X-Men. So
I mean, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I will speak probably more about the dangers later, but that's a big one, I think.
Of roguing.
Yeah, of roguing. Yeah, you never know. Joshua Harris though has since apologized for writing the book.
Oh, okay.
He realized, he saw what purity culture did to a lot of people, and he really regretted it.
I think I can understand. I think it's if that's something that you want to do and you feel it's something that is whatever, but you acknowledge that there is a lot of those factors. I think you can do it safely.
Yeah, I think with any of this too, if you want to wait till marriage,
totally, no,
that's perfectly fine. But it's like, creating a culture around it and shame-based culture around it.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like you can totally date without having to do any of that kind of stuff. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
There's plenty of people who want that.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's that shame-based culture. That's where you start getting into.
It's like extreme edging.
Been waiting 15 years for this.
Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about my experience within the church and how sex was approached there within church and Bible college and stuff. So when we were in youth group every year, we would have a sex chapel. Sex chapel was college, and youth group it was sex night.
Sex night.
Yeah, sex night, or they'd have some.
That seems like a very bad thing to call a youth group.
And they put on the poster and stuff too.
Sex night?
Yeah.
They had posters
Yeah.
that said sex night.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was like they'd separate the guys and girls, and they'd talk to you about sexuality and stuff like that.
Okay.
They'd usually have a guy give his testimony, and it's somebody who has had sex, and he'll explain why it was a bad idea that he did that. And then
I'm curious, what was why was it a bad idea? Do you have like any recollection of like what they'd say?
Yeah, it was mostly like it's pretty great, but also is a sin, so don't do it. And we broke up, so now I can't save that for my special lady when we get married.
Okay.
And it's like, okay,
that didn't sound that bad.
Yeah, quit bragging.
Yeah, that's all. It was just a way for guys to humble brag.
Yeah,
they
exactly.
Had sex in church.
Yeah.
How can I tell everyone I had sex?
Yeah. I put up a Facebook message and I talked to a lot of people in the last day or two and talking about just kind of things that they were taught and when they're in youth group and stuff. And I'm finding it's a lot more like with women, it's really more about how they're valued as people and purity.
Yeah.
And it's like they're almost like objects, like and I've read stories online and stuff, watched videos of people talking about like there was a stick of gum and the youth leader said, do you want the stick of gum? And then they would chew it and like, do you still want it? And it's like, because it loses the value. And then like another youth leader would chew that same piece and be like, do you want it now? And like pass it along. And this is like the lesson that you learn.
Yeah, that
like,
women are gum.
Yeah, the women are pieces of gum. Or like one story I saw too was like a piece of tape and they stuck it to one thing and then they stuck it to another thing and showed how it loses its usefulness after a while. And
oh, man,
that's shameful.
That's so sad. And I know it's not everywhere that does that. But I feel like it's probably more widespread than I'd like to think it is.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. And then with men, it's more like, or with the boys, it was more like how they treated the women and having integrity and like, and so it was more like you weren't devalued, you were just devaluing somebody else, which is bad. So it's a double standard for sure.
I feel like a lot of those are quote unquote traditional values.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that they're I hope that it's a lot like I feel like a lot of people now are a little more like they're moving past that.
I hope so. Yeah.
I do know that it's still a problem. There's a lot of that in other countries I know right now. There's been a lot of that kind of stuff. I think in India, I've been hearing a lot lot about that. There's like a really bad culture with that kind of thing as well. Yeah.
Actually, it's funny too. When I sent out the message last night, people task people to talk about their purity culture stories. I got a message from a Muslim friend, and she was talking about what it's like in her home country. And especially during Ramadan, like if you show midriff or anything like that, you're gonna get yelled at on the streets, and it's worse in other countries. Like you could be physically assaulted and stuff. But
that's fairly recent in those countries as well, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
I know, like a lot of that extremist, like completely covering up of women and the whole modesty thing is a lot more
in the last 4
newer
years
thing,
or so,
I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
because I don't think the Quran explicitly says that you have to.
No,
do
if
that.
you look at pictures from a lot of those countries from like the 50s, and 60s,
they were very,
like,
progressive, places,
progressive places.
But then it was extremist kind of values took over, and
exactly.
Again, I don't know people's experiences with that. This is all our internet hearsay.
Yeah, exactly. My friend, speaking of the youth group thing, my friend messaged me. That he's like, when I was in youth group, I had to meet with a grown man once a week to talk about whether or not I masturbated.
Oh, that's horrible.
I never was asked how my home life was. I never was asked if I was bullied, but I was asked every week if I diddled myself.
Oh my, that is scarring.
Yeah.
That's a very, like,
Yeah.
That's really messed up.
Yeah, that is.
Especially at a time when you're the most, like, self-conscious and vulnerable about something like
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
And then to weekly confront them.
Yeah.
And say, if you're doing this, you're bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something that's very natural.
And then another story I heard, someone was saying that their camp counselor told them that it wasn't a sin to masturbate unless you were looking at lust, unless you're also lusting at the same time, because it's the lust that's a sin. So he was told to just watch baseball or something. And he's like, well, what if he was talking to a gay person and they were attracted to the baseball players' butts? Like,
that's true.
Or what if that creates a weird, like, fetishization of baseball?
Yeah, I think that's funny because a lot of times people say, like, when you're trying not to do stuff, you think of baseball.
Yeah.
As that's how you not masturbate is by thinking of baseball.
Yeah.
But this guy is saying, think of baseball.
Yeah. And then somebody else told me to remember to mention rubber bands.
Rubber band?
Yeah. So guys used to put rubber bands on their wrist and they'd flick it every time they had a lustful thought.
I've heard of this. Yeah.
Yeah. And
did you ever do that, Trev?
I never did that.
You never did that?
No. The only time I put a rubber band on myself was once I was trying to stop swearing. So I would like flick myself every time.
Yeah, I mean, I can see.
But I just stopped doing that because it hurt.
Yeah, that's fair.
So.
I mean, if you wanna adjust your language, you can do that without.
Yeah. Or you could just swear
yourself.
more.
Or you just swear more, too. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, exactly. So we had these accountability groups, too, right? So eventually I started going to this thing. It was like a weekly thing where it was basically sex night every week. I only went a couple times. So we'd all meet together. We'd sing songs and stuff, and then they'd split us up between guys and girls. And one time this guy in the group, the girls weren't even out of the room yet. And he goes, guys, I've been masturbating so much more lately. It's like... They're like, I just wait till the other people are in the room. Right.
Well,
yeah, it was pretty good.
Maybe he wanted them to know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's a weird thing because they're trying to like counteract the like sex ed and stuff like that. But it's just way more awkward. Like it's way more, you're just making these kids tell you all these really personal things instead of just giving them the information they need to.
It's pretty perverse when you think about it in that way.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, wouldn't it just make more sense to have these people be properly educated about this stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
And then let them make that kind of choice for themselves when they're ready to?
Yeah, exactly.
Or if they're going to do something without like a proper choice, at least they'll know.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Because I think that's the big thing too, is that a lot of times people are going to make decisions in the moment and they're going to do things that maybe they shouldn't be doing, but they're going to do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So it would probably be safer for everyone involved if they knew what the fuck was going on.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe just basics of safe
instead
sex
of
and
and also too, telling someone not to do something is only going to make a lot of people want to do it more.
Yeah, exactly. What is that from Inception, where it's like, if I tell you not to think of an elephant, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to think of an elephant.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just like, listen, don't have sex. It's really bad. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to do it. Fuck this guy.
They're making such a big deal.
Yeah, there's got to be something about it.
Thou doth protest too much.
Exactly.
If you know what I mean. Yeah. Some Shakespeare. And then I went to Bible college, right? Mm-hmm. You know, that.
How long were you at Bible college
like
for?
7 years.
Really?
Yeah, like a really long time.
Did you graduated from
I graduated.
that, yes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why so long, if I may ask?
My mom died in the middle of it.
Oh, okay.
So I took some time off.
That makes sense then, yes.
And then at one point, I was managing a record store, or assistant manager at a record store. So I was like really part-time.
Right.
Like,
okay.
I stopped caring, and then
that'll do it.
Yeah.
So what made you decide to finish it then? Was it just because you'd already put so much time into it?
Put so
more
much
than
time.
anything?
I was like, I might as well have the degree.
Yeah.
So, and then I did work at a church for a couple of years after. I worked for 2 years at a church after I graduated. So,
that's something we should talk about sometime.
Yeah.
I think that would be that'd be interesting to hear.
Yeah, but in Bible college they had sex chapels every year, and that was where they'd get everybody together and then separate the guys from the girls. And again, it was basically youth sex nights. I went to the first two and I stopped. People would ask the dumbest questions.
Like what?
Where in the Bible does it say I can't masturbate?
Is that a dumb question though?
No, I guess it's not, but I was just
I think
over
that's
it. Yeah.
I think that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
It's like, is there anywhere that says anything
No, it's
about
all
it?
about lust. But
Okay.
yeah, there's one verse where this guy, it's a terrible story. This guy was supposed to impregnate his brother's widow. Like, his brother died, he was supposed to impregnate his widow so that his brother could have an heir. And then he pulled out and spread his seed on the ground.
Okay.
And people use that to say that you're not supposed to masturbate. It's like, that's not really the point of the story.
Okay, first of all, that's a weird story.
It's a weird fucking
That's
story.
a weird story.
Yeah.
And if you have sex with his wife, he's not going to have an heir.
I know, but that was the tradition back then.
You're going to have an heir.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be horrible.
That would be, yeah, wouldn't it?
Ah.
Yeah. Like, it was also, I think, tradition back then, like, if your brother couldn't even get it up, you're supposed to fuck his wife.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you'd have to be really close with your family.
Yeah, that's a tight-knit family.
But I gotta
it's a little
say,
too tight-knit.
Christmas had to have been weird.
That's so awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. And then another thing about Bible college, too, is that it's college, right? Everybody wants to have sex with each other. So everybody just had to get married. Like, there's an expression, a ring by spring.
I've heard that before, yeah.
They would just be so, like, ready to go that they would just find somebody and marry them.
That's insane, too.
Yeah.
I feel like you're rushing into something much bigger than just having sex with someone. Sure, that you can consider that to be like a really huge thing, but it's nowhere near the scale of getting married to somebody.
Yeah, exactly. And I mentioned that to my dad a while ago, and he's like, "And how'd that go?" I was like, "Yeah, a lot of my friends got married when I was in college." And he's like, "Do you ever keep in contact with them?" I'm like, "Well, sometimes, but most of them are divorced now. Like, most of them aren't together anymore." And
don't a lot of people consider divorce to be a bad thing too?
Yeah.
Even though that it's so prevalent. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
And I wonder if a big reason it's prevalent is because all these people who are getting married at the first chance they got because they wanted to have sex.
Yeah, exactly. Like, well, even that statistic about they say, that the 50% of marriages end in divorce. That was a peak in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
When no-fault divorce became a thing. Mm-hmm. So that was like the peak where, like, people who were in bad relationships could just get out of their relationships. Yeah. And I don't think that's a bad thing. And then,
no, not at all.
And then it's declined much. Like, it's definitely not 50% anymore. It's more like 30 or 40. Yeah. But
I mean, I think it's much better if you're not happy in something. You should. Yeah. I mean, if you can't work it out, then you should get out of it. Yeah. For everybody's sake.
And that's another sad message I got last night too. Was somebody talking about how they were in an abusive relationship because they had sex with them, and they felt such shame that they didn't want to leave this relationship because they were damaged. And it's like that bubblegum story becomes pretty real then, when it made someone feel like such trash that they had to stay in a relationship that was like emotionally abusive or physically abusive or whatever, like because they had sex with them, and they think that they're not worth being loved by somebody else now.
I mean, just telling someone that because they do this, they are worth less. Yeah, that's such an abuse and such an abuse of power and authority.
It's true. Yeah.
Again, and it's trying to keep people in this kind of like line. It's about this absurd control over people's bodies. Yeah. And mind, and this obsession with sex for some reason. Yeah. Yeah. I don't see its relevance anymore.
Yeah, do you know what a purity ball is?
No.
Okay. As we say on my other podcast, strap on, we're in for a doozy.
Okay.
So the purity ball, there's a lot of them at different, sometimes churches will just have their own purity ball, and there's a main one where a lot of people will go to it, and it's basically when your daughter turns 13 or is in that area of her life, the father will ask her to go to this purity ball with her, where she gets a ring, a purity ring.
Oh, I've heard of this before.
She dances with her father, and she vows to not have sex till she's married, and until she's married, she's to consider God her husband, and her dad her boyfriend.
Whoa, what?
Yeah.
I've seen purity rings and I've heard of that stuff, but I didn't know that it could go this way.
Yeah, it's gross.
Consider her dad her boyfriend,
because he's the one who's like supposed to protect you and keep you safe, and
you know that's not what boyfriends are for, right?
Yeah, that's like, you know, you just have a daughter-dad relationship.
You just think of him as your dad.
Yeah, that's okay too.
I think that's fine.
And there was this, I think it was ABC or some news agents, some news network did like a not expose, but they went to one of these things. They interviewed people, and they were talking to some of the girls, and like, so you're not allowed to kiss until you're married? It's like, no. It's like, aren't you worried that you won't be compatible? And they're all like, what? It's just kissing. It's fine. You can figure out how to do it. You know where the lips go. It's like, okay. And then they were talking to the pastor who started this purity ball thing, and she's like, well, what if somebody messes up? Like, what if somebody signs this pledge and they don't have, like, if they don't wait till marriage, or they decide they don't want to wait till a marriage, what happens then? And he just talked about how, you know, God is forgiving and things like that. But it's also like, you're creating these expectations, and you're getting them to sign a pledge when they're only 13.
The thing about it too is, when you're 13, that's messed up too. But I mean, that's also kind of the age of time where they do like confirmations and stuff like that too, right? Yeah. Which is also kind of a strange thing too. Is like, well, they're old enough to believe in this now. They say they are. It's like, are you really?
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't vote or drive, I don't know if you should be able to decide whether or not you believe. It's very strange.
It's a very strange thing.
Also, what kind of consequences would you have? It's an oath for nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, maybe get kicked out of your house. I don't know.
That's like, see, that's another sad thing too. We're coming back to, like, is this child abuse in a way? When it's something where you can be disowned by your family and community. Like, how sad is that a community feels it's better to ostracize a child or a person because they had sex, rather than, you know, trying to understand or trying to talk to them or support them for who they are, and understanding that there's more to your value as a human being.
I didn't clear this story, so I will not put their names in. Okay. But this happened to two people very close to me. One of them was working in a convenience store, and someone came in and said, I heard your brother got his girlfriend pregnant. Now, how did that happen? He used to be a nice Christian boy. And this person goes, oh, he stuck his penis in her vagina. And then he's like, I thought you had, I know you're a kid. You must have figured this out by now.
I think that's the best response you can have to that. Because that is how it's done. Yeah. But he might not have ever learned.
That's true.
And maybe he didn't do that. Yeah. And he thought it was an immaculate conception. Exactly. But it was actually just the mailman. Yeah. Or milkman.
Also, I remember when I was younger, if a teenage girl in my church got pregnant, I don't know why this would happen, but this happened a couple times where, like, their parents would call, like, everybody in the church to let them know what happened, to get ahead of the story. Like, so it's not like rumor mill. They'd be like, I just want you to know this is happening, and she's very sorry for her sin or whatever. But it was kind of surreal. Like,
that's a very weird thing about. I'm just gonna say about, like, that kind of group to begin with is the rumor mill, and just how that sort of thing feeds these kind of pressures and not controls, but I guess they would be controls, right? Mm-hmm. Where you're kind of kept in check, based on public opinion within this community. Yeah, because I mean, if you're just in the community at large, most people don't care.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I was in a musical in high school. Mm-hmm. It was a high school musical.
Was it High School Musical?
It wasn't High School Musical, but it was a musical. It was like a high school music. That's confusing. Yeah, it was a musical while I was in high school, but it was about high school. But not. It wasn't.
But it wasn't High School Musical.
Yeah, but it was about a high school.
It was a musical about a high school, but not High School Musical.
Yeah, I was a nerd in it, and I was, like, locked in a locker. Thank you. Yeah. I was locked in a locker for a while, and it gave somebody in the audience claustrophobia, and they had to leave. That's just a side note. But one of the main actors, they replaced her last minute, because it was a church musical, and she was pregnant, so they didn't want her in the play, so they replaced her with somebody else. Like,
see, the funny thing about that is traditionally speaking, and from like a long standpoint, actors were considered lesser people, and a lot of times they would fraternize with like prostitutes and like the lower class and stuff like that. So it's funny that someone who happened to be pregnant was not fit to be an actor anymore.
Yeah, and exactly, like, in I don't know, that doesn't have a lot of forgiveness and redemption in my mind, especially her character could have just been a pregnant teenager. Like, and those things exist, and it
that's
wouldn't
high school,
have
right?
messed up the story at all.
Also, you didn't have to address it really at all, really.
Like, she was showing by that point. I think that's why they... But it's... So? You don't have to address it exactly. Yeah.
Just do the play.
Yeah, exactly.
There's nothing to do with it.
Yeah. It was insane. I think because what happened was the director, I think, got pressure from the church and eventually kicked her out because, you know, we knew she was pregnant the whole time, and then all of a sudden last minute she's fired. Yeah, it was
but like, how was the church pressuring? That's the thing I don't like. What were they going to do?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably they probably just said this isn't appropriate or whatever. We're not gonna support the show if you
So
yeah, I don't know.
And
yeah, exactly.
So who cares?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I don't know. I mean, I guess when you're in that community, you're in that mindset. That's going to have a lot more sway of what you decide to do. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, so
yeah, exactly. Oh, here's one. So I mentioned sex chapels. Mm-hmm. I used to have a blog back in the day where I talk about my thoughts on God and stuff.
Yeah.
And one time I was
Can we get a link to that?
It's not available anymore.
Oh, okay.
It might be hidden though. It might.
Okay.
All right. But at one point I mentioned our annual sex chapel, but I spelled it anal sex chapel. And then I changed it, but I guess it was still in the memory as anal.
Oh man!
And so most of the hits to that website,
were because of anal sex,
were people looking for anal sex.
That's so funny. Did you guys talk about anal sex in Sex Chapel?
Didn't, but that's one thing that happens a lot when people sign these purity pledges and stuff.
I've heard that. Was Garfunkel and Oates have a song about it? Fuck me in the ass for Jesus.
That's right. Yeah.
Is that a real thing?
That's a real thing. Yeah. That's
cuckoo bananas.
Insane? Yeah.
That people justify it by saying, "Oh well, it's
not actual sex.
It's not actual sex, even though it's called anal sex."
Yeah, exactly.
Sex is in the name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's insane.
So if that doesn't count, wouldn't oral sex not count too?
That a lot of people say that too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's another loophole is oral. Yeah, it's like just have sex then. Like.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah. But I guess no ring until no ding until the wedding ring.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, from Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Oh yes, right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, another one. My friend was in Bible college, and sorry, I'm just reading this message, but he used to walk around with his shirt off, and somebody in his dorm asked, or just in dorms.
Oh, okay.
Like, he was
you just meant like around campus.
Yeah,
it's like okay.
He'd be walking around in dorms with his shirt off, and somebody asked him to put his shirt back on because he was causing to stumble.
What do you mean?
He's like, because he's a little overweight, so he's like, do you mean like, do I have man boobs and you're attracted to that, or or do you just like men? Like, I don't know, how am I supposed to help you here, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna see men with shirts off. Let's see, any other message? Yeah, another Bible college one is with the marriage thing. A lot of times guys would use the thing that they would say that God told them that this was the person they were supposed to marry, and they would tell the girl that, and sometimes they would believe it. Like for instance, when I was in college, this girl was confused because God told two different men that she was supposed to marry them, and she wasn't sure what to do. It's like
so she just wanted to do stuff with two guys and she couldn't decide.
Yeah, I guess
she passed off.
No, she didn't like either of them, but God told them that they were supposed to be married.
Oh, they told her that.
They told her that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So she's just dumb.
Yeah, she's just a dumb person.
Okay, sorry, I mixed that up.
Oh yeah.
I thought this was someone trying to pass the blame for her doing this, but it was just she believed some idiot who told her this.
Yeah, that's the number one Bible college pickup line is God told me we were supposed to be together. Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah, it's like.
Do you think? I wonder how much of this purity culture. This idea of it has to do. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of it that has to do with the tabooing of like the human body and stuff like that, or something like people who are trying to like ban breastfeeding in public or something like that too.
Yeah, it's all a lot of shame.
The over sexualization of things in order to keep it in check.
And it's interesting too. I didn't touch on this much, but like LGBTQ IA. They like it's not even addressed in any of these.
No, I wouldn't think it was.
Like separating the male and females kind of makes you think that they just don't believe gay people exist.
It's
right?
out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind. Yeah, so that none of that was ever addressed in any event that I went to. Yeah. So that's I don't know what to make of that, but
I mean I think there's been a long-standing history with that in religious organizations.
Yeah,
I know some are doing a lot better with it.
Yeah,
which is good to see. That being said, I don't know if enough is being done to acknowledge that. I don't know how much a lot of these kind of organizations can do though.
Yeah,
with regards to what they believe.
Yeah, and another thing too, and then I think we'll close up is there's been a lot of talk lately about these pregnancy care centers that aren't actually. So it's like
what are these? I don't think
they're kind of right-wing organizations that they give like diapers and things like that to pregnant people, but what they do is they mask being like women's health clinics.
Oh, okay.
So that they want to persuade them to go there instead of going to get an abortion. A lot of these organizations will also provide kind of purity curriculum to churches and to Christian schools and stuff like that. And I remember just when I was a youth pastor, getting a phone call and then meeting with some of those people. At the time, I liked some of the stuff that they had to say and didn't like other stuff, but now it's just like kind of horrified that it's all about, none of it is about safe sex or anything like that. It's all about don't have sex.
Yeah.
But then there's the afterwards thing. But if you do get pregnant, here's some resources. And so it's like, yeah, you're willing to do something for a while if they get pregnant, but you're not willing to do anything to make sure that doesn't happen.
That's also like all the anti-abortion lobbying and things like that, where a lot of people they care so much about the baby up until it's born.
Yeah, exactly.
And then after that, it's your problem. We don't give a shit.
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
Do you really care about the sanctity of life and this stuff, or is this just another like kind of political thing for you? Where it's insane. Like what?
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's ridiculous.
It is.
Let's hit the drop.
I think abortion should be allowed until the kid's 6 years old.
I say abortions for some and miniature American flags for
yes, that's probably a better one to leave on than mine.
All right, Christian rock lyric of the week.
All right, let's hear it.
Can't you see you're not making Christianity better? You're just making rock and roll worse.
Another DC Talk. Our first...
this is going to be my new favorite band soon.
Oh, yeah. You're going to start loving them. Our first two-timer. Almost a three-timer, except we cut that one.
Okay, well,
so it's our first two-timer. Their song's called I Don't Want It.
Oh,
I'm going to read it like that. I don't want it.
I don't want it.
SEX is the test when I'm pressed, so back up off with less of that zest. Impress this brother with a life of virtue. The innocence that's spent is going to hurt you. Safe is the way they say to play. Then again, safe ain't safe at all today. So just wait for the mate that's straight from God. Don't have sex till you tie the knot. God and knot don't rhyme. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. Want your sex for now. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it till we take the vow.
Oh, it's still going. Sorry. How much do you bet these guys are probably having at least a little sex on the road?
They're probably having a little sex on the road.
Probably a little bit.
Yeah.
That's a bad song.
That's a bad song.
It's not a good song.
It's a really bad song. This is their early stuff. Okay. They have some okay songs later on, but their early stuff is like so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And their later stuff isn't great. But
okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we could get them on and they could tell us all about it.
Maybe, but I bet. Okay, so they had a cruise. They had a DC Talk cruise. That was their reunion tour last year.
Yeah.
And I think it cost like $3,000. So their only reunion in like 15 years, it cost like $3,000 to see. So I think it's gonna be hard to get them, but maybe we could try to get one of them.
Hey, if they can get us on that cruise.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. See you on the cruise.
And believe it
or not. And rate us on iTunes. Tell your friends.
Oh yeah, do that too. And if you have any problems, send us an email.
Yeah, call your mom.
Work, Sky Moon.